Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus. With me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in Peckville, Pennsylvania, and I am right here every Sunday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station to bring you, the landowner, the information that you need regarding natural gas development. And as always, as it has always been and as it will always be, I, Doug Clark, Clark Law Firm, I have not, do not, will not represent oil and gas companies. I represent the Pennsylvania landowner, the Pennsylvania oil and gas right owner. Never represented a gas or pipeline company, and as you hear me say each week, nor will I. And go check out pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. Check out the websites. Check out the prior radio shows. Today's show will be up Monday morning. You can go check out the show, listen to the show, and hear, as I declare each and every week, that I have not, do not, and will not represent oil and gas companies. And it's an easy thing to say because we're just not going to do it. So, okay. I want to talk today. I'm going to jump into some things here. I want to talk today. I'm going to first talk about some shut-in issues, shut-in language, explain that, and some things that are going on that we see in the north central part of the state a lot, but it occurs in other areas as well. But a lot is going on with shut-in provisions in Tioga County and that area, just a very hot area with shut-in. And then I'm going to talk about these buying and selling oil and gas rights some more. I'm going to say again, if you are considering selling your gas rights, and the next word is critical, before you sign anything, give us a call or call someone who's going to represent your interest and knows what they're doing. People are receiving these contract letters in the mail, receiving them in the mail and thinking, hey, this is great. I'm getting offered $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I had one recently, $10,000. Being offered this type of money and saying, wow, this looks great. I'm going to go ahead and sign. This is a good deal. I'm frustrated. I haven't seen oil and gas production. I was told I'd be a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire. I have this offer. Just picking a number, we'll say $5,000 an acre. Hey, this looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and just sign and sell, and I'm going to get $5,000 an acre. Well, as Mr. Corso says, not so fast. Doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to occur. And again, people send me these letters, and a lot of times, unfortunately, people contact us after they sign the sales agreement or after they sign the letter. And no, you need to make that call first. Think about this. Think about what we've learned when we look at these gas leases. And we go back to 2005, and we can go back earlier, but let's go to 2005 and see that the companies present to you as the landowner very favorable leases to them as the company. And they continue to do that. Of course, they're going to. People are signing these leases. So they draft the documents. They draft them. They draft these documents for their benefit, slanted often very heavily in their favor. Same idea. Think about, here's a letter you're getting in the mail with an offer to buy your oil and gas rights, saying here, sign and return. What do you think that letter, how do you think it's written? What do you think the agenda is from the person or people drafting this letter? To make it as favorable as possible, reasonably, sometimes unreasonably, to that client or to the side who is providing you the letter. So when these companies send you these letters, I assure you, they are very strongly slanted in favor of the company trying to purchase or making a so-called offer to purchase your oil and gas rights. You need to understand these documents. My opinion, these guys are not your friends. They are looking to engage in a transaction that is going to be beneficial to them. Whether we like them or don't like them is totally irrelevant. What's relevant is, do I want to engage in this transaction? Are the terms, whether it be financial or how this closing is going to take place, are those fair, reasonable, and I feel that they justify me signing the document? Remember, you have a situation where you're going to sign, potentially you're offered an agreement or you're given documentation and you're asked to sign. Well, you need to make a decision. Do I sign this? What are the things you're going to look at? Well, the number one thing that is right there in front of everybody, and always pretty much the first thing people look at, is going to be, how much money do I get, or will I get, or may I get under this agreement? And experience has shown that often the company landman, who does he work for? The landman works for the company, not you, the land owner. But the landman then, who works for the company, is going to say, what is the thing that I can point to? Here I have these documents. My goal is to have somebody sign these documents. So I want to point to the positive reasons that I can present to the individual to say, here's why you should sign this document. And very often, what they're going to point to is the financial compensation, the money. But again, remember, there are kind of three different types of money situations we're looking at here. What do I get when or shortly after I sign the document? What will I get in the future if I sign this document? And then again, the third category, very important, what may I receive in the future? Which could be zero, or maybe it could be something very substantial. So you need to identify all of these different types of ways that you may receive or will receive compensation, and then you want to try to solidify that, make it concrete. Well, I want to try to eliminate some of this uncertainty in the future. And maybe I can guarantee that I'll receive certain subsequent payments. Maybe I can negotiate to get more money up front. Maybe I can negotiate to get higher percentages or a higher share of future payments. All of those things are on the table. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join me every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station for All Things Marcellus. And real quick, Cabot multi-unit well requests. You have one. Give us a call, see if we can help you out. 570-307-0702. These multi-unit well request forms, these consent forms, you are changing the terms of your lease forever. You need to have that document reviewed with an attorney who's experienced and understand what it means and how it may impact you. Give us a call, 570-307-0702. If you don't call us, call someone. Remember, we need to stop signing and get information before signing. 570-307-0702. So I want to circle back. We're talking about the money aspect of agreements. So remember, we got that there's going to be money, hopefully, that you're going to receive within, say, 30 days, 60 days of signing documentation. Then there's going to be future money that you may receive if the deal closes. And then there's other potential money that you might receive depending upon what occurs in the future. So again, I was saying that landman comes out to your house. Landman who works for the company comes out to the house to get your signature on documents. So they're going to look at this. They're going to think, okay, here's my task. Here's my job. Get Mr. Smith and Mrs. Smith to sign these documents. So here I come. I know that some of this stuff is probably not great for them. It's probably better for my employer, but you know, I don't want to point to something that's maybe detrimental that they wouldn't like. No, I'm going to point to something that may persuade them to sign. Often is the case, they're going to point to either real money or potential money. Potential money. What do I mean by that? Well, think about a gas lease. Simple example. Well, yeah, we're going to get your royalties and it's going to be 12.5%. But boy, you type in this royalty calculator. Oh, these wells are going to be so fantastic. You're going to be so rich. You're going to be so rich. Oh, by the way, here's my pen. Sign so we can make you rich in the future. That's potential money. Now, I'm not saying it's potential rich. You're going to become rich, but it's potential money. So what do we do there? Well, simple. Again, this is a very simple example. We want to negotiate to have a higher royalty percentage. So then if you're going to get more money in the future, or if you're going to get royalties in the future, if you have a higher royalty percentage, you're going to get more money. Also, we want to try to eliminate these deductions for post-production costs and things like that, pipeline transportation, gathering, compression fees. Again, if there's future royalties, then your potential money now will be realized, it will be real money, and you have negotiated to improve or increase the amount of money you may receive. But let me go back again. Landman comes out. So what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, boy, this lease agreement or the pipeline agreement has some really bad language as far as gives the company a lot of authority to operate on the property and really use a lot of space in the property, let's say. So they don't want to focus on that because they know the landowner in this case probably isn't going to be too excited about that. So what are they going to focus on? Hey, landowner, we're going to offer you $1,500 an acre. We're going to offer you $2,000 an acre. We're not going to talk to you about offering you a 10-year lease. We're not going to focus or discuss that we're going to take full deductions from your royalty payments as allowed by law. We're not going to talk about, as a landman, I'm not going to come talk to you about how the company is going to sell the gas to an affiliated company at the wellhead, then use a local index price, and then take deductions from that index price to pay your royalties. We're not going to talk about that. No. What we're going to talk about is, hey, look, here's $1,500. Here's $2,000 per acre. Here we can see we're having these great wells, and so therefore you have this potential for future royalty. Well, of course, if you have 12.5% royalty, well, the company has 87.5% royalty. So if you're going to make money, so are they. So we want to make sure that we're negotiating, fighting, and working for the best possible agreement. We need to understand that what is going to be presented to us in an effort to entice us or encourage us or motivate us to sign, whatever the document may be, whatever is presented to us, that's what they want us to hear. That's what they want us to hear. They're not going to come in and say, look, we're going to take deductions like crazy. We're going to put multiple pipelines in here. We're going to dig up your property on multiple occasions. Yeah, this would allow us to have a 25, 30 acre well pad. No. Not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, hey, look, we're going to make you rich. We're going to make you rich. Well, some people may become rich, but a lot of people aren't going to become rich. So what we need to do is we need to make sure when we're talking about money that we're maximizing the guaranteed money as far as we can guarantee money, and we're maximizing the potential royalty stream in the future, getting you the best possible royalty language and royalty calculation language. That's what we want to do. But we need to identify where are the problems. Where is this agreement weak and really company friendly, and what can we on our side do about it? I'm going to talk more about this after this first break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember to join me every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here on this station. And for Susquehanna County, and it dips into Bradford County as well, many people are getting these multi-unit well requests from Cabot. They are changing the terms. You are agreeing that your lease will be dictated in part by this consent. You are, in my opinion, clearly changing the terms of your lease. You're allowing something that may not be allowed unless you sign. You need to get individual advice for your specific situation. I believe, my opinion, these documents should be limited more than what they are. And you need to understand what is being presented with all the information that you should have. Again, not what the company wants you to have, because now they're controlling that dialogue. They're giving you only the information they want to give you. You need to get the information that you need to have, that you should have from your perspective. Okay, yeah, company, here's all the reasons why it's good. Is there any reason in the world that it could be bad for me? Ask that question. Is there any reason in the world that it can be bad for me? And see how it's responded. And if the response is no, there's no way in the world it could be bad for you, I would take issue with that. I would take issue. Now, I'm not saying it will be bad, but I'm saying that especially in certain circumstances, it absolutely can be, and in some cases it probably will be. You need specific advice, whether it's from me or somebody else who knows what they're doing and understands this issue. Get specific advice. So if you have a Cabot multi-unit well request, and any other representation, give us a call, 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. Let's just stop signing documents, get the information we need, and you very well may move on to sign a document. You may modify it some, or you may decline to sign it. But get the information before you make that decision. And I tell these reviews on those multi-unit wells usually take an hour to 2 tops. So take advantage of it. 570-307-0702. See if we can help you. I'll be right back after this break, and make sure you join every Saturday right here. Sunday. Every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station. I'll be right back. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, I represent landowners, only landowners and oil and gas right owners, not companies. Never have, never, ever will. Okay, talking about shut-in payments, or shut-in, not even shut-in payments. So the shut-in, what happens is when you're shut in, the company is not producing gas and you're not receiving royalties. So sometimes shut-in can be reasonable. You may have wells shut in because the price of gas, and this is what companies like to really point to, is so low that they don't want to sell during a given month or maybe a 6-month period or whatever that period is, because there's just simply too much supply and they want to decrease the supply, so then the price of gas will go up and they can sell the gas at a higher price. That's a business decision and can be mutually beneficial to you and the company. So they're always, again, they want you to hear what they want you to hear. They don't want you to hear things they don't want you to hear. And what do I mean by that? So what the heck's he talking about? Well, what I'm saying is they want to say, my experience has been, hey, look, yeah, shut in because if the gas price is low, you don't want to sell us. You don't want to sell in your gas price at such a low price because it'll be lesser royalties. This is really good for both of us. Well, okay, that could be the case. But how about this? How about when my lease is about to expire, there's no pipelines or anything in the region or around me even, and you drill a vertical well down to Marcellus or whatever layer, you cap it, and then you pay me shut-in payments year after year after year after year after year and do not produce any gas. Are you doing that, company, because that's a benefit to me? Or are you doing that, company, because you do not want my lease to expire, where I would have the opportunity to negotiate a new lease with potentially better terms? Those are the questions you need to ask. So when you're negotiating a lease, one of the items you want to negotiate, which in my experience is almost always given to the landowner who asks for it. You want to have a limitation on how many years your well or wells can be shut in. You do not want to sit there for 6-7 years getting $1 to $5 an acre and having your property held under lease. You're not getting royalties. You're not able to negotiate a new lease. It's not a good situation for you. You want to avoid that. So you want to say, hey, company, if I do a lease, I want to make sure you're not going to do what I see happening all over to these other people, where you're shutting in wells and simply not producing, holding leases, and just paying them $1 to $5 per acre per year. So I want to have a limitation. So you want to negotiate, we try to maybe get a 3-year limitation to say, look, if year 5 you have a well that's shut in on my property, you have 3 years to either turn that well on or you will lose this gas lease. That's the type of thing we want to have. So it motivates the company to actually start selling your gas, thereby generating royalties from the sale of gas, as opposed to paying you $1 to $5 typically per acre to simply hold your property year after year after year. And that's where I say I'm interested in hearing from people that have been in shut-in phase for more than 5 years. Very interested in hearing from you. You can give us a call, 570-307-0702. Because look, we certainly don't think it's fair. You didn't enter into a gas lease with the idea that you're just going to be held by shut-in wells, vertical wells shut in, that the company may not even produce from. We want to make sure, or our goal when you're signing a lease, you say, hey, when you presented me this lease, you told me how this was going to be great and I was going to be rich to some degree, or I was going to be getting these royalties. There was representations made. Now here I am 10 years later, and there's a well, it's capped, it's shut in, and all I'm getting is these very puny shut-in payments each year. We want to avoid that. And then, again, we want to investigate, okay, whatever's occurring in each case, is this allowed to occur the way it's occurring? And that's why I say if you're in that shut-in phase for a longer period of time, I'm very interested, we are here at the office, hearing from you, 570-307-0702. And Tioga County, this is a big issue for you guys. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join me each week at this time on this station for the information that you need regarding natural gas development in Pennsylvania. So we really need to be looking at this shut-in situation, because these shut-in provisions are being used to hold property, and sometimes for a very long period of time, by paying no royalties for actual natural gas production, but simply paying these annual shut-in payments. Then that leads to, very understandably, a lot of frustration from the landowner. Here you are thinking you were going to be, rich or getting these royalties by now, and here you are 5-10 years later, and maybe even longer, and you haven't seen a royalty. You've only received these shut-in payments. So now you're frustrated. You say, well, geez, is this even going to occur? What's going to happen? I thought I was going to get a lot more money. I'm struggling. Things aren't great. The market isn't great. Milk prices are down. All of these things. And then you get the letters in the mail. The vultures are circling, and they're dropping letters down. They're dropping letters. And you get the letter in the mail saying, oh, hey, landowner, here we are. We're going to offer you $5,000 per acre. You're in Tioga County. We're going to give you $5,000 an acre. You're in Susquehanna County. We're going to give you $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 an acre to buy your oil and gas rights. And you say, you know what? I have 100 acres. I could sell my 100 acres for $500,000. If I was offered $5,000, I could sell that 100 acres for $500,000. That's $500,000, and that sounds good to me. And I thought I was going to get these royalties, and I thought things were going to be really good, but doesn't seem that way. I've been in this shut-in phase. I'm very, very frustrated. And you know what, guys? that makes you ripe for the picking. Ripe for the picking of somebody who wants to come in and deal with a frustrated person who thought they were going to have a lot more money, who's having some financial troubles, or maybe you're not even having any financial difficulties, but you're just frustrated. And you say, look, this company wants to throw my example. If I have 100 acres and I'm offered $5,000 an acre, please, if you're in Susquehanna County, don't read too much into that number because your numbers could be much higher. So, but in my just example only, I'm offered $5,000 per acre, and I have 100 acres, so this could be a total of $500,000. So I'm going to, you know what, I think I want to do this. Once again, everyone, not so fast. Maybe you do want to do it, and maybe doing it is right for you. The first thing I look at in all of these, I do these reviews and consultations with people who are going or considering to sell their gas rights. You know, one that I did the other day, gentleman was considering within the last 30 days. Gentleman was considering the gas rights. I was able to reach out and speak with somebody in the company and find out what these plans are, what's going to occur. And we were able to identify that multiple wells were about to be drilled in the next couple months on this property, which was going to, in a unit where this property is located, which is going to drastically increase royalty payments because this person was frustrated. They were actually getting some royalty payments, but they only had a little bit of acreage in a unit, and there was only one well, and they were frustrated. So now you start getting into, okay, we got multiple wells. It's going to do the majority of my property, and I'm about to get a whole bunch of more royalty. Well, boy, wouldn't you want to know that information before you signed a letter agreeing to sell your gas rights? Of course you would. So if you're considering selling your gas rights, you need to do due diligence. And whether you can do it yourself or have somebody else do it for you, you need to just make sure that you're not entering into this agreement to sell your gas rights blindly, and that maybe if you waited 3 more months, you're about to start receiving significantly more royalty payments, significantly more, which if you knew that, you'd never sell your gas rights. But if you don't do your due diligence, you're not going to know that. You're going to sell your gas rights, and can you imagine you sell them, and within 3 to 6 months, the person you sold the gas rights to is now our company making a lot of money, and you sold your gas rights, and yeah, you got that payment, but you would have been far better off not selling your gas rights. These companies aren't stupid to buy gas rights. They're not out there looking for bad deals. If they're offering you $10,000 an acre, it's because they think these gas rights are worth considerably more than $10,000 an acre. They're offering you $5,000 an acre. They believe the gas rights are worth considerably more than $5,000 an acre. But they also believe that you're going to sign at $5,000, maybe because you're frustrated, maybe because you're in shut-in phase forever. So they're going to look to do the best deal they can. When you get back, I'm going to go through some sample agreement and focus on how these things work. I've talked about this before. We're going to hit it again, a little different angle, but why you need to be careful if you're selling your gas rights, and how there's this whole culture, subculture, people, entities, LLCs who get people to sign to say, I'm going to buy your gas rights. So that company then who gets someone to sign saying, I'm going to buy your gas rights, that company goes out and markets your gas rights to other entities and tries to cut a deal. So they say, I'm going to buy them from you for $5,000 and sell them for $7,000 an acre. And I just made, if you have 100 acres, if I buy it for $500,000, buy it for $500,000, $5,000 an acre, 100 acres, $500,000, and I sell it for $7,000 an acre, that means $7,000 times 100 acres you own, that's $700,000. By me getting you to sign that document to sell your gas rights to me, and then I go and sell them to someone else for $200 or $2,000 an acre higher, I just made $200,000. And so I'm going to talk to you in a second after this break. And if I did it right, I did it without any risk to me whatsoever. I just made $200,000 with no risk to me whatsoever. I'll explain what I mean after this break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Tune in each week at this time on this station. Call the office 570-307-0702. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join me every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station for All Things Marcellus and all the things you need to know regarding natural gas development in Pennsylvania. And as I said in the first segment, I have not, do not, and will not represent gas or pipeline companies. I represent landowners in Pennsylvania, oil and gas right owners for all items oil and gas related, including but not limited to royalty deduction issues, gas lease reviews, consultations, negotiations, pipeline agreements, water line agreements, estate issues, buying and selling gas rights. So we have some time. I'm going to hit on that again. Like I started at the beginning, we can't just go signing these sales agreements, these letter agreements you're getting in the mail without going and presenting it to an attorney working for you to explain what you are signing. Because I am very confident that the vast majority don't fully understand what they're signing. And I'm going to go through in the last segment here probably today one of these agreements that somebody received in the mail, sent to me, and thankfully they sent it to me. And now we're having a review and consultation, and I'm going to explain the different areas and the reasons you need that this person should be concerned. And we're going to go over that in the last segment. But before we get there, I want to get back to what we were talking about in the first segment here. So, I started saying I want to talk about shut-in. I'm going to talk about shut-in, but we got into this whole, landman comes out, wants to have a person sign a document. That's okay. That's okay. You're not going to get royalties unless you sign a lease. I represent landowners, oil and gas right owners who sign agreements all the time. But what we do is we educate and inform the landowner, gas right owner client, the good, the bad, everywhere in between. We talk about what may or may not be able to be negotiated and develop a plan and an approach to move forward. And that's usually done with those reviews and consultations. Again, usually take an hour or two and then goes forward. Maybe we're going to negotiate. Maybe we're going to pass on it, whatever the case may be. But that's always your decision. So landman comes out wants to sign a document. I always say first move, put your pen down, put your hand down. Don't go signing anything. Get the information and then do some research. Get a lawyer who's going to work for you. You don't have to sign in for some, year of representation. Figure out, get a plan, find out if this is something you want to pursue and something that you want to pursue at this time. Making sure that you're not being taken advantage of and that you're maximizing this offer that is presented to you because you recognize this is, as I say, it is an adversarial process because each side is trying to get the best deal for themselves. So if you're not trying to get a better deal, my opinion, in the vast majority of cases, you are making a big mistake. It's not uncommon. It doesn't happen in every agreement. You got to look at the situation. Pipeline agreement the other day, the offer from where it was to where the person's probably going to sign, it's not uncommon to see those numbers jump $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000 or more. Again, you have to understand the situation. But people are signing agreements, say for $50,000. And had they negotiated and worked and got educated and had somebody working for them that knew what they were doing, they might have received double the money. Now, maybe not, okay? But the point is that many, many times, many times, we are able to increase that guaranteed compensation when that's available. We're able to increase the upfront payment, and many times we're able to increase, if you're talking about leases, you're able to increase either the royalty payment, the royalty percentage, the structure, maybe putting on a cap as to what the maximum deductions are that could be taken. And if you're not making the call to find out if that's something that you can do, you don't have to, but you're making a mistake. And if you're not calling me, call somebody. But don't just go signing these agreements. Do not go signing agreements you get in the mail, first day they're presented to you. Think about it. Think about all those people in the big farms and the big properties that signed these leases in 2005, 6, and 7 before there was much information out, before they didn't have the information and education to say, wait, this might be more valuable, when they signed at $25 and 12.5% full deductions. Don't be so naive to think that maybe this isn't going to be occurring by way of other types of agreements. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to see agreements go from $25 an acre to $6,000 an acre as far as like a pipeline agreement or something like that. But the point is, you may be able to significantly increase compensation and improve the language to make the agreement better for you. And you have to take advantage of those circumstances because the company is going to be working to do the best deal they can. And that's okay. Again, that is okay. That's the process. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You can always call us 570-307-0702, Cabot Multi-Unit Wells, any issue oil and gas related, 570-307-0702, and tune in every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station. So again, the company, it's okay. They're going to be doing everything they can to get the best deal they can. You need to do what you can to get the best deal you can. And then hopefully you've been able to negotiate or get an agreement that justifies signature. But rarely is my opinion is that going to be the first document that you're presented. I talk about, adversarial process. What's the company want to do? Here's some lease language. Here's some lease language about pipelines. I do a ton of pipeline work. And if you have a pipeline agreement offered, I would highly recommend that you don't simply sign it. Give us a call or call someone. You can call us 570-307-0702 or call someone because you have to understand your leverage. Routinely, I have seen, and over time, I'm sure I have seen pipeline offers from what was presented to what the people sign at for millions upon millions and millions of more dollars. And if the people just signed, then they would not have obtained this additional compensation. Here's just a quick example. I say these companies present these documents that are favorable to them, saying, hey, here we're going to make you rich. Here, sign. Here, this is from a lease. This is from a gas lease, about pipeline language. And this probably, through negotiation, and if you know what you're doing, you can do this very quickly, you can probably eliminate the negative aspects of this provision. But here it is, saying that the company shall be entitled during the term of the lease to lay and maintain pipelines on and across the landowner's property to transport, now listen to this, without any fee payable thereto or therefore to lessor, natural gas produced on said tract of land and on other lands, whether or not adjacent to the tract of land that the landowner, in this case, owns. Let me back up. So this is saying that they have the right, when you sign a gas lease, to run pipelines across your property. Notice there's no limitation on number or location or anything like that here. But they have the right. And it doesn't matter if the gas comes from your lands or even adjacent lands. It can come from other lands. You've now given very substantial pipeline rights, which you probably didn't need to give. But is the company landman who works for the company, is it their job to come out and say to you, hey, look, you may not want this, and here's the reasons why? Now, maybe a company landman says, okay, you know what? I know I'm allowed to give a pipeline limitation term. So, hi, landowner. Hey, look, this isn't so great. How about I could recommend you do this, and we could probably get you this. Remember my theory of, well, you want to, the old, get more flies with sugar deal or honey. So what you have is you say, hey, look, I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for you, landowner, and I'm going to get you this pipeline provision. It's going to be beneficial to you. Well, all right, wasn't your job to do as good as you can for the company? Well, you're helping me. So now I have some more trust in you because I think you're really pro land owner. And so now I'm more inclined to believe you, sign some documentation because I think you're out there fighting for me. I'm going to tell you, be very, very cautious of that. Be very, very cautious of that. But my point here, and just circling back some, is that this lease gives incredible pipeline power, in my opinion, to the company, which you probably don't need to give them. But if you don't talk to somebody who can explain that to you, then you're probably, in your signing, you're giving rights away that you probably didn't need to give. And I've done pipeline agreements for, $750,000 to $1 million. And I've done them 500,000, hundreds of thousands all the time. And so we need to make sure that we're preserving opportunity for future compensation. Also, you want to make sure you're limiting future surface activity on your property as much as you can. Now, if you want to have surface activity in the property in the future, meaning pipelines installed, well pads, whatever the case may be, let's say pipelines for a minute, well then that's okay, but we want to put you in a position that you can negotiate that. And if you want to take the lowest amount of money that the company is willing to offer, then you can do that in the future. But if you want to try to negotiate and a company offers you $100,000 and you can negotiate for $300,000, don't you want to do that? Don't you want to do that? So we want to, again, maximize the compensation that's guaranteed. We want to maximize any potential future compensation. And we want to make sure we know what the heck it is that we're signing. We need to make sure. You're listening to All Things Marcellus. This is Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You can contact us at 570-307-0702. So again, I know I got a little bit sidetracked on this stuff because it's happening all the time. People are signing bad agreements all the time. We need to get that stopped. You can't, in my opinion, just listen to the other side who's only telling you what they want you to hear. You need to fully understand your situation. So I'm going to talk about now this shut-in because I teased it at the beginning. I want to talk about shut-in. So shut-in, what in the world does that mean? Well, some people unfortunately know very well what that means because they're living in a situation where there's been a well drilled, but it is in what they call a shut-in phase. Shut-in phase, meaning that a well has been drilled, then it has been capped, a cap placed, literally it's envision a cap placed on top of the hole, the well, and it's now shut in. Any gas that well would produce is shut into the well. They would have to take the cap off, connect it to the pipeline, transport it away from the well site. So every lease virtually that I've ever seen, I can't think of any that didn't, but virtually, maybe there's a couple out there, have a shut-in provision within the lease. And what it typically says is that, and this is important too, people still believe, I sign a 5-year lease, at the end of 5 years, that lease is over, and I negotiate a new lease. That is not generally true. If no activity at all occurs, no company drills, no company does anything, they don't construct a pad, construct a roadway, they don't do anything, then your lease would terminate under those circumstances. But let's say that before the end of the 5-year term, the company either drills or starts to drill a well, they conclude, they finish that well, then they put a cap on it and shut it in. If they do that within that 5-year lease term, which is called the primary term, the first 5 years in my example, then they have now called what's called held or hold your lease. it continues. And most leases say that your lease will continue indefinitely. Could be 100 years or more. Your lease will continue as long as gas is either being produced or is capable of being produced in what they call paying quantities. So if it's shut in, the company's position would be, and in most cases probably correctly, that this well is capable of producing, but we have it shut in. So now the lease will also say that the company has to pay you a certain amount of money each, usually it's a year, that if they keep the well shut in for an entire year, they have to pay you a per acre price for each acre of property that you own that is in a unit where the well is shut in. So again, let me rephrase that. So your end of 5 years, there's a well that's drilled, it's capped, and it's shut in. Then you look at your lease, and there's going to be a shut-in provision in the form body of the lease that's going to say what the company presents you, so you know darn well it's going to be the advantage of the company. So it says that, hey, if we shut in your well for an entire year, we have to pay you, and it's typically $1 to $5 per acre for the amount of acreage that you have that's within this unit where the well is shut in. So if you have 50 acres and you have 20 acres in a unit and a well is drilled and it's capped, typically the company wouldn't have to give you, let's say it's $1 an acre. Usually they don't have to give you $50, even though you have 50 acres. They only have to pay you $1 per acre for the amount of acreage that you have in the unit where the well is shut in. That's typically the case. So as you can see, no one's getting rich on shut-in royalty payments. You're not. Sometimes some companies out there will pay $20, $25 an acre. Not typically, but some will. Again, you're not getting rich from shut-in royalty. You want a company to produce gas and sell royalty or sell gas so you can actually get royalties from natural gas being sold. Shut-in royalty is only going to be like $1 an acre, $5 an acre, paid one time a year. And it's not because you're getting a royalty for gas that's being produced and sold. No, that's their fee to pay you in order to continue to keep your lease in this shut-in phase. Now the question becomes, how long can that occur? Here you are, have a well, it's shut in. Now you're receiving $1 or $5 an acre every year for that well, or for that acreage, that's in the unit where the well is shut in. And now here's year one. And let's say my example, you have 50 acres, you have 20 acres in a unit that is shut in. Let's be nice. Let's say it's a $5 per acre. So $5 per acre times 20 acres equals $100. So that's your royalty. Let's hope if they sold gas, you'd be getting much more than that. So they're just shutting it in, holding your lease, doing nothing, but paying you, in my example, $100 a year for each year they shut it in. Well, how long can that occur? Well, that's a question. And if you didn't negotiate a time frame, then that's a question that there's no real easy answer to. And that's why I say, I'm going to go to break again. If I'm interested in hearing from people, I'm interested from hearing from people. And even if you're not, the number one area, Tioga, look, Sweppy, Shell, whatever you want to say, drilling vertical wells, straight down, not horizontally, just vertical wells and shutting them in. I'm interested in hearing from people that's occurred for at least 5 years. Give us a call. We'll do some intake and we're interested in hearing from you. And I don't care where you are. If you're in a shut-in phase and that's been occurring for over 5 years, then I'm interested in hearing more about that because we're looking into this. We're really looking into this to see, because what's happening is in my opinion, companies, and especially one, is you are using the shut-in very aggressively, not to produce and to hold on to leases. And that's something we're looking at. So give us a call, 570-307-0702 if you're in that type of situation. Love to hear from you. Okay, we're up against it. I'm going to talk more about some shut-in things here in this next break. But I'll tell you what, whether you're interested in buying or selling gas rights, this last segment, stay in there because, boy, this stuff drives me crazy. And this gives you a great example of why you need to talk to somebody before you sign these agreements. Because people are making a lot of money off of landowners' backs that I believe should go to the landowner. So we need to make sure we're protecting you, and I'm going to explain that. So stick with us for the last segment. We're going to get more on shut-in here in the next segment. You're listening to Attorney Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. Make sure that you tune in every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m., and I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join me each week on this station at this time. I'm going to jump right into it, talking about buying and selling gas rights. Major issue that I have is people are signing letter agreements or agreements with these companies who are making them offers to buy their gas rights. Then the company has the ability to sell or assign or transfer the agreement you entered into. That company or person who you sign a deal with, let's say to sell your gas rights for $5,000 an acre, they then have the opportunity to assign or transfer that to someone else or another company. So they can go shop that around, like my example, and see if they're going to give you $5,000 to see if they can get somebody else that'll pay them more money. And then they pay you $5,000 an acre, and if you had 100 acres, that's $500,000. But they get a deal from the other guy to pay them $7,000 an acre, which gives them a $200,000 profit. $200,000 profit. Well, what's also very disturbing is that they can do this without any risk whatsoever. So here's an example. Holding here, letter received by person out in, again, this happens to be Tioga County, but saying that the buyer, gets to, there's a 90-day period from the time you sign this to determine whether they want to close or they're going to close, and then there's also something they can extend this for another 30 days. But this agreement allows this buyer who's offering, we'll use an example of $5,000 an acre, to go ahead and assign or sell this to another company. So during this 90 days, if they find someone who's willing to pay $7,000 an acre, they can transfer the agreement and make $200,000. If they find someone who pays $10,000 an acre, they can transfer that agreement and make $500,000. And what's crazy is if done properly, they can do it without any risk. And that's what we're seeing in this particular case. It says that if the buyer's agent or assigns, so whoever they sell it to, is unable to consummate the anticipated transaction by the closing due to changes in the market values, goes on, or title issues, then you get another 30 days, but then they can conceivably walk away. So they watch the market, they shop it around, they can't find anyone who will give more than $5,000, and they walk away. So you've committed to sell your gas rights in this scenario. We'll call this a scenario. This is a hypothetical scenario you got to watch out for. You're committing in this scenario to sell your gas rights for $500,000. And if the company doesn't want to buy them, ultimately they don't have to, and they can cite market conditions, meaning the price went down. But if they can find a buyer who's willing to give them more money than $5,000 an acre, they'll sell or assign it to them and pocket that money. And you get what you bargained for, but they may made big profit with no risk. My opinion, that shouldn't occur, and you can usually protect yourself against something like that. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you join every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station. Remember, stop signing bad agreements. The landman works for the company, not you, the landowner. Give us a call, 570-307-0702. Have a great week, everyone.